anniversary. There really hasn't been an end to January 6th. So once accountability has been had, then you can start to heal, and then you can start to look forward. But I don't look at today as an anniversary, but it's just another day.
A year out, man, I'm just angry. I went through the whole Rolodex of emotions. Now I'm just angry. And I would ask anybody who doubts the reality of January 6th to question your own motivations behind that.
CNN Chief White House Correspondent Kaitlan Collins is here with us. So, Kaitlan, this was a very different speech for President Biden. So what went into it?
Yeah, it's one he had worked on for several days, Allison and Victor, over the holidays. This is something that President Biden and his top aides were talking about because it was a speech that's obviously largely symbolic. And I think that the White House wanted President Biden to be able to meet the moment with this. And yesterday we asked Jen Psaki if the president was going to address the former president's role in the riot and what that was going to look like. But clearly today, that was the crux of the speech. That was really what he focused on. And as you said, he did not mention Donald Trump by name, but he did reference the former president 16 times in that speech, not only talking about what he did that day and what his time was like in the Oval Office, which we know, of course, consisted of watching what unfolded on the Capitol with this attack underway, but also talking about what he said about the election and the lies that he spread about his election loss and what that looked like, of course, over the course of several months and in the years since that attack first happened. And I do think it's so notable, though, to say that the current president was in Statuary Hall, where those rioters were roaming freely a year ago today, in there with the presidential seal in front of him, essentially calling his predecessor a liar.
He built his lie over months. Wasn't based on any facts. He was just looking for an excuse, a pretext to cover for the truth. He's not just a former president. He's a defeated former president. Defeated by a margin of over 7 million of your votes in a full and free and fair election. There is simply zero proof the election results were inaccurate.
Now, President Biden said what we have reported, which is this isn't a fight he sought. This isn't really a speech he wanted to give, but he said it's not one he is going to shy away from. And that's why he was so forceful in his condemnation of the former president today during that speech. And when he was asked why he didn't name him directly, he said it's not because it's this political battle of Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, but it's about something bigger than that, talking about this attack on democracy and, of course, the legitimacy of the election.
Okay, Kaitlan Collins, really interesting to know all of that. Thank you. So a few minutes from now, members of Congress will publicly reflect on the attack that they survived 1 year ago.
CNN's Manu Raju was inside the Capitol on January 6, 2021, and was one of the first to report about the breach. Watch.
Right outside the Capitol, there are scores of protesters outside this building right now. And we have been told by Capitol Police that the Capitol is in lockdown and that people cannot leave the building. Well, this is something I have never seen in my time covering Capitol Hill, that protesters have actually breached not just the building, but have come inside the building.
Manu is live at the Capitol now. That first report was almost a year ago to the minute, Manu, that you were reporting on people getting into the building. There was a moment of silence today to mark what happened a year ago, and a remarkable moment on the floor. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's right. There were just two Republicans on the House floor just moments ago when Nancy Pelosi opened it up to have that moment of silence to remember what happened on that harrowing day. Those two Republicans, Liz Cheney, of course, the person who was involved in the investigation about what happened on January 6th, and also her father, the former vice president, Dick Cheney. Members of the Democratic side lined up afterwards one by one to greet him, to shake his hand, and also Nancy Pelosi herself went up and greeted him as well. There were warm words exchanged. It's a much different situation than when Dick Cheney was vice president, when there was no love lost between Cheney and Democrats. But this is much different. The Republicans are a much different party now, and Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney are on the outs with much of his party, mostly because of January 6th and the efforts by his daughter to investigate what happened, the push by how she was pushed out by the Republican leadership because of her war of words with Donald Trump. And Dick Cheney, too, made clear his disappointment with Republican leaders for not commemorating the events of the day.
It's not a leadership that resembles any of the folks I knew when I was here for 10 years.
So he said, it's not leadership that resembles any of the folks I knew when I was here for 10 years. And he went on to say in a statement that was released just moments ago that he's deeply disappointed by many in his party who do not recognize the gravity of the nature of that day. But in reflecting back on what happened at that time, when after we were evacuated from this building to a secure location, we came out after the senators were evacuated themselves, and they were escorted back to the Senate to continue the certification process late in the night after all the insurrectionists had been pushed out. There was a sense of unity among Democrats and Republicans who just viewed the events with disbelief. They were aghast, and they insisted that nothing would happen again. But that moment of unity has essentially dissipated, happened pretty rapidly, particularly on the House side, as you're seeing just a couple of Republicans today in the House. And right now on the Senate side, there are a lot of floor speeches being given right now about what happened. Those floor speeches given strictly by Democrats. Guys.
Manu Raju on Capitol Hill. Thank you. Now, CNN's Alex Marquardt, he was outside the Capitol that day as things escalated there. And when the crowd of Trump supporters realized that he and his crew were with CNN, they refocused just a bit of that aggression.
A warning, some of the language you're about to hear is graphic.
Fuck CNN! Lying motherfucker! Yeah!
Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Alex Marquardt joins us now from Capitol Hill. Alex, that looks scary. Those look like tense moments. I mean, you can see that when they figure out who you're with, they get angrier. I mean, to the point where they're practically foaming at the mouth.
Yeah, it was a really rattling moment. And you can, in that video, you can see that they actually did, at one point, tackle our crew and our cameraman. That happened in this hour, exactly a year ago. And it was as the insurrection had just gotten underway, we actually went around to the other side of the Capitol to get a closer look.